Welcome back to Sportland Sugo on a day where the Ferrari Challenge is fully intercontinental. We're racing in Japan, we're racing in the UK, and we're racing in Canada today across 3 of our 4 Ferrari Challenge championships. It's a markedly different set of conditions here at Sportland Sugo this afternoon. Track temperature about 14 degrees down on what it was 24 hours ago. Around this facility, the fabulous Sportland Sugo opened in the mid-1970s. The last real shift in terms of the layout was adding that loop in the first sector. That came around the year 1987. It's an old school circuit. It's one that rewards commitment. And there are a lot of very committed drivers here in the Ferrari Challenge Japan, but none more so than Yudai Uchida, who's made it 3 wins in the last 3 races. Yesterday here at Sportland Sugo had a really good drive and managed to clear the field not once but twice. A safety car intervention mid-race did not stop the dominance from Yudai Uchida. The big question today is, can anyone beat Uchida on the road? Anna Inotsume will be alongside him on the grid again this time. Inotsume, who is driving the Ferrari Japan guest car this weekend, the reigning TCR Japan champion, the first ever TCR champion, first ever female TCR champion in the world across all of the TCR categories globally, and she is always one to watch. Sugo, our third destination on the calendar, as you saw there. We're making 2 visits to the Suzuka circuit, of course, this season. And Sugo, our third destination in 3 months. We started the year on the Japanese Grand Prix support bill on the Sunday of the Grand Prix, really putting on a show as Yudai Uchida and Yuga Furatani had a fabulous scrap to start the season. And we've had no shortage of racing action so far in our second season of Ferrari Challenge Japan. Last year was a fabulous proof of concept, and it's only growing stronger in 2024. And the National Series concept that we see in both the UK and Japan is anticipated to be expanded in future seasons here at Ferrari. So then, it is Uchida and Inotsume on that front row of the grid. There's one of our drivers who had great success yesterday, Copa Shell winner yesterday, Phil Kim. He was in the overall top 5 as well. He's got some work to do today based on the qualifying 2 results. He's 7th on the grid, but more importantly, his competition in the Copa Shell, Yasutaka Shirasaki, is 4th on the grid, which means the Rosso Scuderia dealership have 2 cars on the first 2 rows of the grid. That's big as they try and extend their lead in the Copa dealer classification. All of these cars entered under the umbrella of Ferrari's dealer partners in Japan. They will be rolling momentarily here on the formation lap, and then in just a few moments we will go racing. To run you through our other class pole sitters, we've already spoken about Shirasaki and Uchida, of course. Your Trofeo Pirelli AM pole sitter, the effective second class of the 4 out there on the circuit. It's Akita in 3rd position, who's the first of those. Motohiko Isozaki will be directly behind him as the race gets underway. In 5th place, he is the 2nd place runner in Trofeo Pirelli AM. And then in Copa Shell AM, once again, a very strong qualifying from Yusaku Maezawa. You see the red and white car there on the 3rd row of the grid. He is looking to try and get a slightly healthier start than he did yesterday. Of course, ended up in the pack and fighting. And we saw evidence of why sometimes being in the midst of the scrum, let's say, doesn't necessarily pay off. He unfortunately ended up in a spin at turn 1, his race ending early, as he was making a very lively bid at the time for a second consecutive win within Copa Shell Am. We're rolling on the formation lap then, and it's Yudai Uchida alongside Anna Inotsume on the first row of the grid. Row 2 is Akita and Yasutaka Shirasaki, the first of our Copa Shell runners. Then it's Motohiko Isozaki alongside yesterday's Copa Shell winner Phil Kim, Yusaku Maezawa and Ryuichi Kunihiro on row 4 of the grid. Kanji Yagura and Kazutaka Miura on row 5. Row 6 is Cold Max and Ryotaro Saito. Row 7 of the grid, Masaru Yaneda alongside Baby K on row 7. Row 8, Nariki Kawasaki and Yamato Yamaguchi. Row 9 of the grid, 17th and 18th for Shimoyama and Ayama respectively. Row 10 is Norikazu Shibata and Masafumi Hiwatashi. Rounding out our top 20, Omuri and Kurikawa bringing us down to 22nd, and John Leo in the 108 car for Corner Shiba rounding out our 23 car order as we get ready to go racing here for our one and only race of Sunday here in Sugo. Yesterday, Uchida built a comfortable lead. There was then a mid-race safety car, and he went on to build something like a 7-second lead again before the end of the race. The likes of Inotsume, Akita, even perhaps Shirasaki or Isozaki know that they want to try and quell the chances of Uchida disappearing away towards the start of the race. Of course, everyone, or most of these drivers towards the sharp end, are fighting within their own classes. However, overall wins, overall podiums, they do carry something of a mystique. And it doesn't matter if there's a driver ahead of you in a different class, you're going to have a go at the overtake if the opportunity presents itself. They head up the hill then from the final corner from 110R over the crest, and it will then be time for us to go racing here in the Trofeo Pirelli Am, Copa Shell and Copa Shell Am are 4 classes within Ferrari Challenge Japan. We're racing as 23 488 Challenge Evos get underway, and it is a good start once again from Uchida, but Akita also getting a fairly good launch from the green lights going out. Inotsume, though, retaining second place in the number 2 car. Everyone filing through the first few bends. Phil Kim on the move from 6th position. He's moved up to 5th place, and I think perhaps that is Isozaki, who's just ahead of Maezawa as well. So I think Isozaki may have dropped a position or 2 there. Shirasaki is just ahead of Phil Kim by the looks of it, so the Copa Shell battle is already together. There's the 104 of Miura. He's gotten ahead of Kanji Yagura there as well, so Yagura losing out to the 104 driver Kazutaku Miura, but the top 3 remain in stasis, and already they are pulling away. So first lap of this race, the race distance, half an hour plus 1 lap here in Sportland Sugo. They file through the horseback corner for the first time after coming down the backstretch. Now through SP in and SP out. That was the 144 car there. You saw the distinctive white and green machine of Yamato Yamaguchi. Some great battles here among some of the Copa Shell Am runners. A lot of new interest in the series this year. A lot of new faces coming into Copa Shell Am and making their racing debuts within Ferrari Challenge Japan, which is always exciting to see. The most impressive of the newcomers so far this year, arguably, is Yusaku Maezawa. He's across the line 7th overall. He leads Copa Shell Am, and his closest competition is Saito in at 13th place. Your top 2 starting to drop Akita. With every lap, every mile that's completed in the car, Inotsume is getting a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more familiar with this Ferrari 488 Challenge Evo. It's never easy to learn a new car on the fly, and that's kind of the objective, the format for all of the drivers who get in that number 2, the guest car. Here's your Copa Shell battle, though. Shirasaki and Phil Kim racing for 4th overall, but also racing for 1st in the Copa Shell category. Now, Motohiko Isozaki, if he can start to find some of the race pace that we typically know him to have during this one, he's going to have to get through the Copa Shell lead battle in order to challenge Akita for Trofeo Pirelli Am. So he's got quite a tall order ahead of him at the moment, the vastly experienced racer in the number 55. Good battle pack developing here from 8th backwards as Miura and Yagura are still fighting it out after Miura had a good start at the beginning. Now, Kunihiro is dropping through the order a little bit. He's dropped down to 16th place, that time past the start-finish stripe. That's an 8-position drop. So Kunihiro must have had an issue somewhere out there on that second lap in the 192 car. So one of the front runners, or prospective front runners in Copa Shell, that's the yellow class that you see on your timing tower. The red car, or the red numbers, denote that they are Trofeo Pirelli runners. The white is Pirelli Am. Copa Shell, as you can see on screen currently, that's your yellow background numbers. And then the kind of grey colour is Copa Shell Am. This is the Copa Shell scrap, though. Yasutaka Shirasaki would love to try and hold off Phil Kim, but Kim has looked really good here at Sugo this weekend. He's looked great all season, in fairness. He's a relative newcomer to racing, came in on the recommendation of Jay Park, a fellow South Korean national who's raced previously in Ferrari Challenge. And Phil, I think, took some encouraging that, you know, yeah, you've got the pace, you should try this. And we're starting to see it pay dividends. He had good speed in Suzuka at the start of the season, albeit the luck didn't really swing in his favour. He had 2 non-finishes. And then Fuji, he really seemed to come alive in the seat of that car. Finally claimed his first win of the season in class in the Copa Shell category just yesterday here at Sportland Sugo. And will now feel the momentum underneath him and feel that monkey off his back. He can now go full fight, full attack in this battle against Shirasaki in the 109 car. Shirasaki, who led the standings by 22 points coming into this weekend. 3 wins to his name coming into this weekend. Of course, didn't get the win yesterday. That was Phil Kim's. But still, 3 wins in 5 races to this point in the season is certainly a very good record for Yasutaka Shirasaki. Further back in the field, this is the 117 car of Kawasaki, the green, blue and yellow machine that's leading this battle pack, being pursued at the moment by, I believe that's Baby K in the 193 car. So some exciting scrapping further back in the Copa Shell category. This is for 6th in the Copa Shell class at the moment. Some of the Copa Shell Am drivers interspersed through this train of machines as well. That was a look to the inside there, a rather ambitious look to the inside from Koji Ayama. Ayama just drifting it a little bit wide there out of the final corner. He's being pursued by the 129 machine. That's Masafumi Hiwatashi, who was fighting for Copa Shell Am honours at Fuji last time. Baby K to the inside of Kawasaki there at turn 1. Nice move. Set that up at the previous corner. Up over the crest of the hill, seemed to have something like 6 or 7 kilometres an hour more than Kawasaki after a good exit, and converted that into a late braking move into the first corner. Noriki Kawasaki, who last year was 5th in the Copa Shell category in his debut season, the president of the Japanese Ferrari Owners Club. Huge passion for Ferrari as a brand and a great collection of road cars. Came into this weekend 4th in Copa Shell. Baby K in his first weekend this season, so we're not quite sure whether or not, well, we're not quite sure that we'll see that driver up in the standings later on in the year. With 2 meetings missed, one would suspect that perhaps a little bit too much of a deficit compared to those who are full season entries to fight for the championship, but certainly good pace. Look, already disappearing away from Kawasaki. The 192 car there in the hands of Kunihiro, still being pursued by Ayama, who looks fairly eager to get on with this. The body language of that white 169 car is screaming, I want to get through, and is yet to get close enough to pull a legitimate move into any of these braking zones, but is very late on the brakes into turn one. Tries to power around the outside. That would be really impressive, but not quite close enough to make it happen. However, I get the feeling that the 192 car just being driven through the mirrors a little bit here by Kunihiro. And perhaps it's not going to be long before the doors open for Ayama. Through the S-curve they go. Baby K, meanwhile, has already closed in on Ryotaro Saito for 12th overall just up the road. So K has been released and is now on the charge. Speaking of charges, Yudai Uchida across the line already with 21 minutes of the race left to go, and that gap already out to 2.4 seconds over Anna Inotsume. Inotsume, who this year is focusing primarily on the world of single-seater competition in Formula Regional. She has a significant resume racing tin tops, even in the All Japan Electric Car Championship. And very busy racer over the years. Phil Kim, a little bit wide there into the apex. Continuing to press on in 5th position behind Shirasaki, and Shirasaki critically with about 1 seconds over Phil Kim now, and that is a very useful margin for Shirasaki. It's just enough to kind of, again, not have to drive the car through the mirrors. It sounds silly, but having to focus a good amount of your capacity on defending and making sure no one's about to lunge to your inside, that does take your eye off the ball significantly, and Shirasaki's now got that gap where he doesn't need to worry about it. Conversely, Phil Kim, I think, is coming under increasing pressure from Motohiko Isasaki for 5th overall. Speaking of pressure, I don't think anyone's delivering more of it at the moment than Ayama. However, he's also being attacked by Hiwatashi just behind in that 129 car, so it's really swings and roundabouts in this pack from 14th overall backwards. Kawasaki actually with a few car lengths now over Kunihiro behind him, because again, they're fighting among themselves, and that gave Kawasaki a little bit of a reprieve, but they're now compacting up behind him once again. Iwatashi behind Ayama in the darker red and black car. Finished 4th in last year's Copa Shell Am, and currently leads the Copa Shell Am Championship, but will be conscious of the likes of Maizawa running up in the overall top 10 while he watches these Copa Shell runners up ahead of him fight each other. Defensive driving here from Kunihiro as he goes to the inside line. Can Koji Ayama make it round the outside this time? The answer is still no, but you just get the feeling that Ayama is going to take even a quarter of an opportunity if it's presented to him here. Looking very racy at the wheel of the 169, but again, he has to be careful about Hiwatashi. Hiwatashi wants to try and climb up and get towards the likes of Saito, to the likes of Maizawa. In fact, Maizawa is dropping through the order. Maizawa is only 21st on my timing screen. Now, I didn't see anything happen to Maizawa, but he's 21st, and moreover, he is 6th within Copa Shell Am. Now, I didn't spot anything happen to the 177 car, but he is not up at the sharp end of the top 10 as we expected him to be in the Copa Shell Am lead. Instead, it's Saito that leads in Copa Shell Am, so something happened to Maizawa, and something is happening to Yamaguchi. Yamaguchi with a puncture in the 144. Oh, and we have a spin. That's Ayama. Ayama facing the wrong way at SP out. Was looking increasingly all or nothing for Ayama, and unfortunately it's the latter on this occasion that he's received. Just gets going there between Uchida and Inotsume. We're going to get a look at how that happened. Quite quick into SP in. Got through the corner okay, but again, tried to carry that little bit of extra speed to get the advantage heading into the final corner. Very easily done, and ends up facing the wrong way. So then that really relieves the pressure a little bit on Kunihiro, and in fact it has done, because Kawasaki is now behind Kunihiro. The 192 car, the kind of traditional AF Corsa colours up ahead, the red with the green and red, green and white tricolor pattern ahead. He's now ahead of Kawasaki in the 117 car, so Kawasaki has been demoted to 15th place, and Hiwatashi is now on the offensive up against him. Now, Yusaku Maezawa is still on the lead lap, and he is making his way through the order in the 177 car as well. He's up to 4th in Copa Shell Am, so a podium is still very much possible for the 177, who's been the Copa Shell Am pace setter this weekend. He's 3.5 seconds off the back of Shibata. Shibata, who is at the back of this queue. And that's Saito being overtaken there by Kunihiro. Now, Kunihiro is racing in Copa Shell, Saito in Copa Shell Am, but Saito's pace a little bit off that time by the looks of it. Yes, a 1:32.4 last time by. Is something amiss perhaps with Saito? We'll have to see. Certainly easing off the pace at the moment. Perhaps is just aware that some of these cars around him aren't his competition in class, but the red and black machine with the pink highlights on the front end, the 129 of Hiwatashi, is very much his competition in Copa Shell Am. So Kawasaki, between the two of them, is an effective buffer between the Copa Shell Am lead battle. However, if the 129 car can clear Kawasaki, next up we have a battle for the Copa Shell Am lead. Copa Shell Am class is traditionally where you find your new-coming drivers, or your drivers who perhaps have entered into racing a bit later in life, starting to find their footing in the world of Ferrari Challenge racing. Hiwatashi with Kawasaki as well, it must be said, closing in on Saito here. Saito, I feel, is definitely under threat for the Copa Shell Am lead. Uchida, meanwhile, powers over the crest of the hill here. He's shifting up that gearbox as he goes over the crest of the hill, perhaps moving from 5th into 6th gear. 7-speed gearbox mated to the 3.9 litre V8 in this car. Given the relatively compact nature of Sportland Sugo, I don't know if they use all 7 gears. Sometimes at circuits of this nature, you'll see that they don't use the full extent of the gearbox. Sometimes the legs of the prancing horse outweigh the length of any straight in the area. Inotsume just seeing a bit of dust kicked up there by Uchida, but remaining around 5.6 seconds off the race leader at the moment. Uchida with vast experience, I think the most experienced Ferrari Challenge driver on the grid. I'd suggest the most experienced racing driver of anyone on the grid is Isosaki, but a lot of his early endeavours were in single-seater competition. The 144 car of Yamaguchi we see there pulled up. We saw that car slow on the backstretch earlier on. That's one car stopped. We also have Ayama, we see on screen there, of course, out of position after his moment earlier on, but still running at speed. Maybe able to try and find a place or two before the end of this race. Tsuchida, though, from Inotsume at the front of the pack, and actually last time by, Inotsume was a little bit quicker than Uchida, so maybe the race pace is starting to sway towards the racer of the number 2 Ferrari Japan car. We'll wait and see. There's the wonderful hot pink machine of Kurokawa. Takashi Kurokawa currently running 7th in Copa Shell Am, staying well out of the way of others as they go past. Phil Kim has been under relentless pressure from Motohiko Isosaki in this race for 5th overall, as we see them once again, currently about a second and a half separated, but I think that's about the biggest the gap has been all race long. Isosaki has not been able to find his way past those Copa Shell front runners to make a bid on class honours for himself in Trofeo Pirelli Am in the battle with Akita. Akita currently on course to perhaps take that win in the Trofeo Pirelli Am category. Akita coming into this weekend with a 5-point lead over Kanji Yagura in the Pirelli Am Championship. That gap was extended yesterday with Akita's win. And Akita is yet to finish off the podium in the class so far this year, which is a really big help for him. John Leo getting put a lap down here by Shirasaki, running a strong 4th overall in the 109 car at the moment. Shirasaki, as we alluded to earlier on, also running for the Rosso Scuderia dealership that our race leader Yudai Uchida races for. Some dust being kicked up ahead. Now that won't be a pleasant sight for Yudai Uchida, because that means he's closing in on the real battles towards the rear of the field, and that can be treacherous ground to walk on. Yusaku Maezawa is up to 3rd in class as well in Copa Shell Am, so the 177 car is on the comeback charge at the moment in Copa Shell Am, the red and white machine that we saw starting towards the front of the order. And in fact, Maezawa is right there with Hiwatashi for 2nd in class. We see it now. This is the battle for 2nd in Copa Shell Am, looking to the inside line and not quite able to find it yet. Maezawa on the comeback charge. Again, I must admit, I didn't see what happened to Maezawa if we did catch it on camera, but he is having to fight back, having started in the top 10, started as the Copa Shell Am leader. He's now 3rd in the class, but the leader in class is the primarily black car at the front of the queue. Kawasaki is running in Copa Shell, the green and yellow car, so he's not really a factor in the class battle. But Hiwatashi, 2nd in Copa Shell Am, now under significant pressure from Yusaku Maezawa. Maezawa punches the throttle out of Rainbow Corner and down the back stretch. We're into the final third of this race. 9 minutes, 10 seconds, plus 1 lap left to go in this race. And that was Maezawa looking to the inside for a move. Don't know whether he got that done, but he was certainly looking committed to the late braking as they went into the horseback corner. It looked like there may have been a move on there. Masaru Yaneda and Kasutaka Miura fighting it out for the Copa Shell podium, the final spot on the podium at the moment. Yaneda currently has control of that position, but Miura would love the opportunity to step on the podium for the Auto Cavallino dealership. Kasutaka Miura debuting last year in Ferrari Challenge at Suzuka. And I can confirm that Maezawa did make a move for 2nd in Copa Shell Am down here at horseback a lap ago, and it stuck. Maezawa is up to 2nd in class now, and is on the back of Kawasaki. In fact, he's passed Kawasaki, so Saito and Maezawa are now fighting it out for the Copa Shell Am lead. So that 4-car scrap we were looking at about a lap ago has evolved significantly. Let's see if we can get a look at that at some point as this Copa Shell 3rd place battle continues on. There's Maezawa, so he's gotten through. He's into 2nd, in the Copa Shell Am class. But look at how much more committed he was there on the brakes than class leader Saito. Maezawa is hunting. He knows he's got overall top 10 pace this weekend. He is on the hunt in the 177 car. Really charging is Maezawa. Uchida coming up on these guys as well to put them a lap down potentially. There's the 129 car of Hiwatashi, which is now down to third in the Copa Shell Am battle. What kind of run has Maezawa got as they go over the crest of the hill? The Copa Shell Am lead battle is very close. The next two cars ahead of these are fighting it out for the Copa Shell Am win. Uchida puts two cars a lap down in one fell swoop, quite ambitious, but just ahead of Uchida is the battle for the Copa Shell Am lead. And it's looking very, very close as Maezawa in the 177 continues to press Saito, and they've made contact. They've made contact in the Copa Shell Am lead, and that hands the battle to Hiwatashi. Maezawa rejoins, Saito rejoins, and well, Maezawa is running again, still second in class, but Hiwatashi is now the class leader. This was the move. Maezawa had already gotten through, tried to turn in, and Saito's nose was still there. They met in the middle. But thankfully this time, both drivers kept running. When Maezawa had a relatively similar incident at turn 1 yesterday, that marked the end of his race. Hopefully that's not the case today. Can he go hunting now for Hiwatashi with 5 minutes and 55 seconds of the race remaining? It's the 129 car that now leads in Copa Shell Am. Here's the 152 of Shimoyama running just outside the overall top 10, 11th overall at the moment and 4th in class. This is the battle though for 3rd in class, but the safety car has just been put out onto the circuit. Cold, 150 car of Imuri is slow. I think there's some negotiation here saying, no, you were ahead of me when the safety car came out. Go through. Go through. I think that's what's going on here. In fact, no, red flag. Red flag has been put out. So there must have been an incident somewhere around the circuit as the red flag has been put out here. With 5 minutes and 19 seconds left to go. The red flag has been declared. And one would anticipate that that could be the end of our race. Certain cars just heading back now towards the garages. Red flag has been declared. 5 minutes and 19 seconds of the race left to go. Now they're waiting. They're being queued up here at the end of the pit lane. We'll see whether or not the race can potentially be resumed. But a pause to the race with just under 25 minutes completed. We're reaching crescendo point in a couple of class battles there. Uchida had built a significant lead at the time of the safety car going out. It's Akita there who's at the front of the queue in the pit lane. He was running 3rd overall and of course leading in Trofeo Pirelli Am. There's Uchida making his way back up the hill towards the pit lane. And there is the safety car leading this group in. So at the time of the red flag, it was Uchida leading by something in the region of 6 or 7 seconds. Over Inotsume in second place. Akita was 3rd overall, leading in Trofeo Pirelli Am. Your Copa Shell leader was the 109 car of Shirasaki, running in 4th place. Then it was Phil Kim running 2nd in Copa Shell, 5th overall. Motiko Isosaki in 6th place ahead of Kanji Agura, who was hunting him down for the Trofeo Pirelli Am runners-up place at the time of the red flag being waved. Cold Max was running 4th in that Pirelli Am class and 8th overall. Yaneda and Miura fighting it out for the final podium spot in Copa Shell. They rounded out the overall top 10 at the time of the red. And then a bit further back behind them were some of the Shell Am and Copa Shell drivers fighting it out outside of the top 10. So everyone now taking stock, regrouping, and it's just been declared on my timing screen that the session will not restart. That is somewhat anticipated. So the session will not restart, of course, with 25 minutes of the race complete. Typically, with that percentage of the race complete, we anticipate that the race is going to conclude, and that is indeed what's happened there. And that means that it's 4 wins in 4 races for the dominant force that is Yudai Uchida. Anna Inotsume climbing from the number 2 car as she makes it 2 podiums in her first weekend in Ferrari Challenge machinery. Akita taking 3rd position and, of course, winning in Pirelli Am. And there's your bulletin from Race Control that the session will not restart, so it has concluded this race. Akita, like I said, 3rd overall, winning in Trofeo Pirelli Am. We did just go through the top 10, but Shirasaki will win the Copa Shell class ahead of Phil Kim. Isosaki and Yugura will round out the Pirelli Am podium. And your winner in Copa Shell Am will be Saito in the 127 car. So Ryotaro Saito, 14th position, the first of the Copa Shell Am runners home. Was 2nd in the points and 6 points off Hiwatashi prior to this weekend, and is yet to finish off the podium this season in Copa Shell Am. So a win for Saito could well be a big boost to his championship aspirations in Copa Shell Am. So then the race has concluded just under 25 minutes in after a red flag out there on the circuit. And we hope everyone is ultimately okay there. But it's Uchida who has taken the win, and some debrief going on between Uchida and Inotsume at the moment. 2 drivers with a lot of racing experience. I'm sure there's some great shared insight there. Of course, it's a long day of Ferrari Challenge racing today. No shortage of Ferrari Challenge action globally. We are going to see the UK Championship racing in Snetterton today. They had their first race yesterday, so the other of the 2 national series, along with Ferrari Challenge Japan, they'll be racing at Snetterton. And for the 2nd time this season, Ferrari Challenge Racing is also appearing on the support bill of a Grand Prix. Of course, Ferrari Challenge Japan opened its season at the Suzuka circuit on the Japanese Grand Prix support bill, and the circuit Gilles Villeneuve this weekend hosting the Canadian Grand Prix. And that is the North American Series racing there with the 296s this weekend. Yuda Uchida then winning the race by 5 seconds, ultimately over Akita in third place. Yasutaka Shirasaki taking the Copa Shell win, just behind the Pirelli Am winner Akita. Phil Kim 5th, Isosaki 6th, Yagura 7th, Coldmax, Yaneda and Miura bringing you down to 10th place. Shimoyama, Baby K, Kunihiro, Saito, Maizawa, Kawasaki, Hiwatashi, Shibata, Umuri and Koji Ayama rounding out the top 20 in that race. We got some great action out of the Ferrari Challenge Japan in both races this weekend. Sportland Sugo, always an exciting facility for single-make GT racing. And it's Yuda Uchida who will leave Sugo with a real dose of momentum in the championship. The rest of the order, John Leo and Takashi Kurakawa, both finishing a lap down. And Yamamoto Yamaguchi rounding out the 23 cars that took the flag in that race. As I say, there's a lot more Ferrari Challenge action to come today. Make sure you tune in for Snetterton and Montreal as the UK and North American Series continue their racing action in their respective calendars. In Ferrari Challenge Japan, of course, our next stop is a familiar one. We'll be back in Suzuka on the 29th and 30th of June for yet another pair of races at the famous facility, the famous host of the Japanese Grand Prix. And then it's a little bit of a gap to Okayama on the 24th and 25th of August. That will be the final weekend of the season. And then, of course, a lot of our drivers in Ferrari Challenge Japan will migrate over for Finale Mondiale, the all-important season closer, the Ferrari Challenge World Final. We look forward to seeing their fortunes over there as well at the end of 2024. But for now, from Sugo, we thank you for watching, and we hope to see you again very soon for more action from Ferrari Challenge globally, and of course, here in Japan with Ferrari Challenge Japan, where Yuda Uchida could be on his way to his second consecutive championship win.